Right now, your mind feels crowded. Thoughts are loud. Emotions move faster than reason. Maybe something today pushed you over the edge, or maybe you've been carrying pressure for weeks without noticing. If that's you, pause for a moment. Nothing is wrong with you. Emotional overload is not a weakness. It is what happens when a human mind is pushed beyond its limits. The real problem is not that emotions appear, but that they quietly take control of your reactions. And once reactions take control, clarity disappears. Stoic philosophy was never about killing emotion or becoming cold. It was designed as a practical system for staying clear-headed when life becomes chaotic. When stress rises, when anger flares, when fear clouds judgment, Stoicism gives you tools to regain command from the inside. In this video, you'll learn one simple mental shift that restores clarity and a practical framework you can apply immediately. So even when emotions take over, your thinking does not. 1. Control the inner response. First, most people believe they lose control because of what happens to them. A harsh email, a disrespectful comment, a sudden problem at work. They point to the event and say, "That's what made me react." But Stoic philosophy draws a hard line between two things most people confuse: the event and your reaction to it. The event is external. It happens outside your control. The reaction is internal. And that is where your power lives. This is where many men feel frustrated and ashamed. They don't see themselves as weak, yet they still snap, shut down, or say things they regret. The truth is uncomfortable but liberating. Losing control is rarely about weakness. It's about untrained reflexes. Just like an untrained body reacts poorly under physical pressure, an untrained mind reacts poorly under emotional pressure. Stoics understood this centuries ago. They never claimed you could stop emotions from appearing. Anger, fear, irritation, and anxiety are automatic. They arise before logic has time to speak. What is always within your control is what comes next. The reaction, the action, the words you choose to release into the world. Think about a common situation. A coworker questions your decision in a meeting. Instantly, your chest tightens, your mind races, you feel disrespected. If you react immediately, you interrupt, defend yourself aggressively, or withdraw in silence. Later, you replay the moment and think, "Why did I let that get to me?" The problem wasn't the comment. The problem was that your reaction happened on autopilot. Or imagine an argument at home. One sentence hits a nerve. Not because it's true, but because it touches pride, insecurity, or old wounds. The reaction explodes before clarity has a chance to arrive. Again, the event didn't control you. Your lack of space between emotion and action did. Stoicism teaches a simple but demanding principle. Control the inner response first, or the outer world will control you. Authority does not begin with dominance over others. It begins with command over yourself. This is where the Stoic technique comes in. Pause, label, choose. First, pause. Even a brief pause interrupts the emotional hijack. Silence is not hesitation, it is a restraint. Second, labels. Name what is happening internally. This is anger. This is fear. This is wounded pride. When you label an emotion, you step out of it. You stop being consumed by it. Third, choose. Ask yourself, what response aligns with who I decide to be? Not what feels good at the moment. Not what proves a point. What preserves self-respect and long-term authority. This practice is not soft. It is disciplined. And over time, it rewires how you meet pressure. The world may stay chaotic, but your inner response becomes steady. And that is where real control begins. 2. Emotions are data, not commands. One of the most damaging lies people absorb without questioning is this: if I feel it strongly, it must be true. That belief silently hands power away. When anger feels justified, you assume someone crossed a line. When fear feels intense, you assume danger is real and immediate. When anxiety lingers, you assume something is wrong with your future. Stoicism cuts directly through this illusion. Emotions are not the truth, they are information. And confusing information with authority is how people lose control of their lives. Think of emotions like warning lights on a dashboard. A flashing signal does not tell you exactly what to do. It tells you to check something. Anger might signal a perceived boundary violation. Fear might signal uncertainty or lack of preparation. Anxiety might signal unresolved decisions or imagined outcomes. None of these signals are commands. They are data points. Yet most people treat emotions as orders. Anger says attack, and they attack. Fear says avoid, and they retreat. Anxiety says panic, and they spiral. The moment you act automatically on emotion, you give up command. You stop leading yourself and start being dragged by internal noise. This is not a strength, it is surrender, disguised as authenticity. Stoics trained themselves to observe emotions without obeying them. They understood that an emotion arriving does not require action. It requires interpretation. What exactly is this emotion pointing to? What assumption is hidden underneath it? What story is your mind telling to justify it? Consider anger. Most men don't struggle with feeling anger. They struggle with what it does to them afterward. The damaged relationship, the reputation hit, the regret that shows up in silence later. Anger often signals that something you value feels threatened, but reacting instantly rarely protects that value. It usually damages it. Fear works the same way. Fear is not proof that you are unsafe. It is proof that you care about the outcome. Acting blindly on fear often shrinks your world instead of protecting it. You stop speaking, you stop trying, you stop stepping forward. Stoicism replaces emotional obedience with what can be called a commander mindset. A commander listens to reports, but does not let reports make decisions. Information flows upward. Judgment flows downward. In this mindset, emotions are acknowledged without being indulged. You don't suppress them. You don't deny them. You simply refuse to let them take the wheel. Ask yourself a simple question in moments of emotional intensity. If I were calm right now, would I make the same decision? If the answer is no, then the emotion is providing data, not direction. This shift is subtle but powerful. You stop seeing yourself as someone who must control emotions and start seeing yourself as someone who commands responses. Over time, this builds quiet authority. People sense it. More importantly, you sense it. When emotions stop being commands, clarity returns, and with clarity comes control. 3. Why thinking collapses under emotional pressure. Have you ever looked back at an argument and thought, "That wasn't me"? The words came out sharper than intended. The decision felt urgent at the time, but foolish later. The clarity you have now was completely absent then. This experience is not random. It follows a predictable psychological pattern. Under emotional pressure, the mind does not expand. It narrows. Stress and strong emotion trigger a survival response. Your attention tightens around perceived threats. Nuance disappears. Options shrink. The mind stops asking, "What is the best response?" and starts asking, "How do I protect myself right now?" This shift happens fast, often before you are aware of it. When emotions run high, rational thinking does not disappear because you are unintelligent. It disappears because your brain reallocates resources. Logic, long-term planning, and empathy are pushed aside in favor of speed and defense. This is why emotional reactions feel so convincing in the moment. The mind is operating in emergency mode. Stoics understood this long before modern psychology named it. They observed that when passions intensify, judgment weakens, not because reason is gone, but because it is drowned out. That is why Stoic discipline focused so heavily on preparation before emotion strikes, not control during the peak of it. This explains why arguments almost always get worse, not better. Each emotional response raises the pressure. Each raised voice or defensive comment further narrows perception. By the time the conflict ends, both sides feel misunderstood, exhausted, and regretful. The mind was hijacked, and clarity was locked out. This hijack often feels like certainty. You feel absolutely right, you feel justified, you feel compelled to act immediately. That feeling of urgency is the warning sign. Clear thinking rarely feels urgent. Emotional thinking almost always does. The most dangerous part is that this collapse of thinking feels invisible while it's happening. You believe you are reasoning, when in reality you are reacting. You gather evidence selectively. You interpret neutral actions as hostile. You simplify complex situations into good versus bad, right versus wrong. This is not clear, it is tunnel vision. Stoics trained themselves to recognize the early signals of this mental takeover. A racing heartbeat, a tightening jaw, repetitive thoughts, the desire to win instead of understanding. These are not signs that you should act. They are signs that your mind is no longer fully online. Recognizing the moment of mind hijack is crucial. It is the point where emotion stops informing thought and starts replacing it. Once you can identify this moment, you gain leverage. Not control over the situation, but control over your response to it. The Stoic move is not to argue harder or think faster. It is too delayed. Delay is not avoidance. It is a strategic pause that allows the nervous system to settle and reason to re-enter the room. Time restores perspective. Distance restores proportion. After the pressure drops, you often see the situation differently. What felt like a personal attack looks like insecurity. What felt like a crisis looks like an inconvenience. This gap between perception under pressure and perception after calm is proof that emotion distorted your thinking. The goal is not to eliminate emotional pressure. That is impossible. The goal is to stop mistaking pressure for clarity. When you learn to recognize mental collapse as it begins, you stop trusting every thought that appears, and that skepticism is the beginning of real wisdom. 4. The Stoic Pause. Create space before reacting. Most people believe power shows up in speed. Quick replies, immediate reactions, instant comebacks. In reality, speed is often a sign of lost control. When emotions are high, reacting fast usually means something else is driving. Stoicism offers a counterintuitive truth. The pause is invisible power. A pause creates space, and space restores authority. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness. People fear that if they don't respond immediately, they will appear uncertain, passive, or defeated. So they rush to fill the silence with words, explanations, or emotional defenses. What they don't realize is that this urgency reveals more than silence ever could. It reveals instability. Stoic silence is not emotional suppression. Suppression means pushing feelings down and pretending they aren't there. That pressure always leaks out later, through resentment, sarcasm, or exhaustion. Stoic silence is different. It is intentional restraint. You acknowledge the emotion, but you refuse to let it dictate your behavior. The pause is the moment where you reclaim ownership of yourself. 3 to 5 seconds may seem insignificant, but it is enough to break the emotional momentum. During that brief pause, your nervous system begins to settle. Your breathing slows. The surge loses its grip. That tiny window is where choice reappears. This is why Stoics valued self-mastery over self-expression. Expression without control leads to regret. Control without suppression leads to clarity. Consider a tense conversation. Someone challenges you publicly. The instinct is to respond immediately, to defend your position, to assert dominance. But a pause changes the dynamic. Silence shifts attention. It forces the other person to sit with their own words. It signals that you are not reactive, not rushed, not threatened. In conflicts, the pause protects you from saying the thing you will regret later at night. The sentence that felt powerful in the moment, but weakened your position in the long run. Many reputations are damaged not by what people think, but by what they say under pressure. The pause also applies internally. When self-criticism spikes, when regret floods in, when your mind attacks itself for past mistakes, the Stoic pause interrupts the spiral. Instead of immediately believing the thought, you step back and observe it. You create distance between the observer and the emotion. This distance is unavoidable. It is clear. Practicing the pause is simple, but not easy. When you feel the emotional surge, count 3 slow breaths. Label what you are feeling without judgment. Then ask yourself one question. What response preserves my self-respect? Not what feels satisfying. Not what proves a point. What keeps you aligned with who you decide to be. Over time, this practice rewires how you experience pressure. You stop feeling trapped by emotions. You stop fearing conflict. You stop dreading difficult conversations. Not because they disappear, but because you trust yourself to meet them with composure. The pause is not passive. It is deliberate. It is the difference between reacting and responding, between being controlled and being in control. When you master this space, you gain something rare in a loud world: calm authority. And calm authority doesn't need to announce itself. It's felt. 5. Clarity comes from principles, not mood. One of the quiet reasons people feel mentally exhausted is that they let their mood decide everything. When they feel confident, they act. When they feel uncertain, they hesitate. When they feel angry, they confront. When they feel low, they withdraw. Life becomes a series of emotional reactions instead of deliberate choices. The problem is simple. The mood is unstable. It shifts with sleep, stress, hunger, ego, memory, and environment. A compass that spins cannot guide you anywhere, yet most people try to navigate serious decisions using temporary emotional states. Stoics rejected this completely. They understood that clarity does not come from feeling right. It comes from standing on principles that do not change with mood. Emotions pass. Principles remain. This is why Stoicism resonated so strongly with men responsible for leadership, families, and survival. When others depend on you, emotional inconsistency becomes dangerous. People may forgive mistakes, but they do not trust unpredictability. A man without principles feels unstable, even if he is intelligent or well-intentioned. Principles create reliability. They remove hesitation when pressure rises. Instead of asking, "How do I feel about this right now?" you ask, "What do I stand for?" That question cuts through confusion. Living by mood feels easier in the moment, but it comes at a cost. You wake up unsure of your own decisions. You second-guess yourself. You explain yourself too much. Over time, this erodes self-respect. Not because you lack ability, but because your actions lack consistency. Stoics built what can be called an inner code, a small set of non-negotiable standards that guide behavior regardless of emotion. This code is not moral perfection. It is directional clarity. Examples are simple, but powerful. Honor. Speak truthfully, even when it's uncomfortable. Self-control. Do not act while emotionally compromised. Boundaries. Do not tolerate repeated disrespect, but address it calmly. When chaos hits, this code takes over. You don't need to analyze endlessly. You already know the direction. This is why men with principles appear calm under pressure. Not because they don't feel emotion, but because emotion does not override their standards. Their behavior remains consistent. People trust that consistency. Building an inner code requires honesty. You must decide what matters enough to guide your actions when you are tired, angry, or afraid. Not values you admire, but values you actually live by. Fewer is better. Clarity grows from simplicity. Once defined, these principles act as anchors. When your mood drops, they keep you steady. When your ego flares, they restrain you. When temptation appears, they remind you who you are. Stoicism does not promise comfort. It promises coherence. And coherence is what restores clarity in a disordered mind. When you stop asking your mood for direction and start consulting your principles, decisions become cleaner, regret becomes rarer, and respect, both from others and from yourself, begins to grow again. 6. Think clearly by shifting the question. When emotions take over, they don't just change how you feel, they change the questions your mind asks, and the wrong questions trap you in the wrong mental state. Under stress, the mind defaults to questions that deepen helplessness. Why me? Why does this always happen? Why can't people just be fair? These questions feel natural, but they quietly reinforce the idea that control lives somewhere outside you. Stoicism interrupts this pattern at the level most people never examine, the question itself. A powerful Stoic reframe is simple but radical. Instead of asking, "Why me?" you ask, "What is under my control right now?" This shift does not deny pain, it restores agency. The question you ask determines where your attention goes. When you ask, "Why me?" your mind searches the past for blame and injustice. It replays events, reopens wounds, and feeds resentment. When you ask, "What's under my control?" your attention moves forward. It looks for leverage, choice, and action. This change instantly alters your internal state. You stop feeling hunted by circumstance and start feeling positioned to respond. Consider failure. After a setback, emotion asks, "Why did I mess this up? What does this say about me?" These questions turn one mistake into an identity. The Stoic question is different. What part of this can I improve? What is still within my reach? One path leads to paralysis. The other leads to growth. The same applies to betrayal. Emotional thinking fixates on fairness. How could they do this to me? The pain is real, but the question keeps you stuck in the injury. Stoic reframing asks, what does this reveal? What boundary must be enforced now? That question shifts you from victimhood to clarity. Loss of direction follows the same pattern. When life feels empty or confusing, emotion asks, "What's wrong with me? Why do I feel lost?" These questions spiral inward without resolution. Stoicism asks, what small controllable action restores order today? Direction returns through movement, not explanation. This is not positive thinking, it is strategic thinking. Shifting the question does not eliminate emotion, it prevents emotion from dominating the mind. You still feel disappointment, anger, or grief, but you are no longer ruled by them. The question anchors you in reality instead of imagination. This practice takes discipline. Emotional questions arrive automatically. Stoic questions must be chosen deliberately. At first, the shift feels unnatural. Over time, it becomes instinctive. When you train yourself to ask better questions, clarity becomes accessible even in chaos. You stop demanding that life explain itself to you. You start asking how you will meet what is in front of you. That is the Stoic advantage. Not control over events, but control over interpretation. And once the question changes, the mind follows. 7. Training calm is a daily practice. Many people believe calm is a personality trait. They look at others who seem unshaken and assume they were born that way. Stoicism rejects this myth completely. No one is calm by default. Calm is built, trained, and reinforced through daily discipline. What looks like natural composure is usually the result of repeated inner work. The difference is invisible, so people underestimate it. They only see the outcome, not the effort behind it. Stoic calm is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to remain functional in its presence. This capacity is not gained through motivation or inspiration. It is built through small, consistent practices that shape how you respond under pressure. The first practice is observation. Each day, notice your automatic reactions, not to judge them, but to see them clearly. When irritation appears, observe how quickly your body tightens. When anxiety arises, observe how your thoughts accelerate. Awareness weakens reflex. The second practice is acknowledgement. Name the emotion without dramatizing it. This is frustration. This is fear. This is impatience. When emotions are named, they lose some of their authority. You stop being immersed and start becoming aware. The third practice is delay. Delay is the muscle that turns calm into a habit. You resist the urge to respond immediately. You give yourself time to choose instead of react. This delay may last seconds, minutes, or hours, depending on the situation. Each delay strengthens self-command. These practices may feel insignificant, but they compound. Over time, the nervous system learns that not every emotional surge requires action. The mind learns that silence is safe. The body learns that pressure can be endured without panic. This is where inner discipline turns into freedom. When you no longer fear your own reactions, external situations lose their grip. You stop living in anticipation of emotional storms. You trust yourself to handle what comes. Without training, people become prisoners of their moods. Productivity rises and falls with emotion. Relationships suffer under unfiltered reactions. Regret accumulates quietly. Discipline interrupts this cycle. Stoicism does not offer shortcuts. It offers reliability, a system that works when motivation fades and stress rises. Calm becomes less about feeling good and more about functioning well. Over time, this daily practice reshapes identity. You stop seeing yourself as reactive. You become someone who responds deliberately, someone who remains steady when others escalate. That steadiness becomes a form of strength, not loud, not dramatic, but enduring. And in a world addicted to emotional chaos, that strength quietly sets you free. If there is one truth to take from this video, it is this: your emotions are not the enemy. They were never meant to be. The real struggle begins when emotions are allowed to command your reactions. Clarity does not come from eliminating feelings. It comes from learning how to respond without losing yourself. Stoicism does not teach escape. It teaches mastery. It does not ask you to withdraw from life, suppress emotion, or pretend chaos does not exist. It teaches you how to stand steady inside it. When you control your inner response, the outside world loses its power to shake you. This is not a theory. It is practice. Pause before you react. Shift the question from blame to control. Choose principles over passing moods. These small actions, repeated daily, build something rare: inner authority. And inner authority creates freedom. Not the loud kind, but the quiet kind that lasts. If this message resonated with you, take a moment today to apply just one idea from this video. One pause, one better question, one deliberate response. That is how calm is trained. Thank you for spending this time here. Your attention matters, and your effort to grow matters even more. I'll see you in the next video, where we continue building strength, clarity, and control from the inside out.